Good morning, traders. Welcome back to the Trader Bacon Show. I am your host, Gates Adams, and we've got a couple of really cool things going on right now. We've got 2 days left till the end of the month, midnight Eastern time, 11:59 officially Eastern time. 80% off all evaluations, 1 day to pass. Make sure you take full advantage of that at apextraderfunding.com. We also, as usual, will be giving away 3 evaluations from this show. Make sure you go ahead and fill out the form that is in the chat. Make sure you get that done before the end of the show. Of course, that means last week we had 3 winners, which were Aaron Jose, Bay, and Ivan Carlos. Hopefully I've pronounced everything correctly. Those are usually, those are fairly simple ones. So glad to be back. I've got an exciting show for you today. Before we jump into it, I just want to remind you guys, if you have not checked it out, make sure to check out the Forged Trader podcast on iTunes and Spotify. Season 1 is complete, 12 episodes, and I will have new episodes dropping this week as we begin season 2. So don't forget to catch that as well. Now, today's show is going to be awesome. If you have ever been on YouTube, just looking for any sort of trading videos, if the word trending showed up, you will have surely seen Tory Trades. And she has been kind enough to spend a little time with us today and share with us some of her journey and some of her strategies that have been over the last 9 years building just an incredible, not just trader, but also educator, mentor, and coach. So without further ado, let's bring on Tory Trades on today's episode of the Trader Bacon Show. Welcome to the Trader Bacon Show, where we showcase everyday traders that are getting funded, paid, and bringing home the bacon. Are you ready? Because the Trader Bacon Show starts right now. Tory, good morning.
Hey, good morning. I got to say, you win for the coolest intro. That was awesome. You're a winner.
Thank you. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. Well, thanks for hanging out with us today.
Of course.
I know you've got a lot of content out there. You spend a lot of time, obviously, in the charts. You spend a lot of time helping other traders find their way. And for anybody who's been watching the show for a minute knows that's a big, big thing for me. I'm embarrassing myself to the nth degree to hopefully have an opportunity to help other traders, to include, I blew 2 PAs and 2 evaluations today. Sometimes it happens and we just got to get back on the horse. So Tory, tell me a little bit about your story. You've got a really cool story about how you got into trading and really what's brought you this far.
So I was blessed with the opportunity to learn from a family member. I know many people, you got to like search online. You got to pick the right guru, you know what I'm saying? And it's a tough position to be in, where I was blessed with an in-person mentor. And not only was it just someone that I could see or a tangible person that I could show up to, it was a family member. So I had full trust in the system and the strategy and his teaching style. I took everything he said for face value, and it worked. Here we are 9 years later.
So you talk about this. I mean, I've talked a lot about the fact that trading is a pretty lonely business. You know, most of us sit in front of a whole bunch of screens with no other people, and we sit there and watch green and red lines, form on a chart. And yeah, we might get into a Discord. We may go watch some videos and things like that. But how much of an impact do you feel like it had on your growth in those early stages when you had somebody face to face right there in front of you that you could go back and forth with?
I'm going to say I can attribute all of my success to that. Yeah. Just because I don't know any better, that's all I've had. But being in this space for so long now, I can just tell, and I know myself well enough that if I had picked someone online, I'm sure there would have been times where I was in drawdown. I wasn't seeing consistency. I wasn't making progress. I would have probably doubted the person that was teaching me, doubted the strategy, and moved on to something else, and then would have been stuck in that vicious cycle that everyone is in. So I think that gave me the upper hand, is that I didn't ever doubt. Well, there were times, obviously, but I had to push through it. I didn't think ever that like my uncle was trying to deceive me or not actually teaching me a true strategy, So I think I got to attribute all of that to my successes, that I had a family member that I trusted, a mentor that I trusted, and I stuck with the strategy.
Well, not everybody, of course, has that opportunity. I've had that opportunity with Daryl, and of course, it didn't necessarily work out as well for me over the course of time that I was working with him. As he and I are close friends, and he's tried to train me and coach me through
That's fair.
trading. But not everybody's going to have an opportunity to have somebody who's actually skilled and developed, and not only that, but actually has the capacity to share that knowledge, to imbue that knowledge, so to speak. What do you suggest for somebody who doesn't have that opportunity? How do they get past some of the challenges that come from, I don't know if this person's legit. I don't know. I mean, you and I hear it all the time online. People don't know if we're full of it. People will make these comments. Now, I would say 99.999% of the people that actually see you on a consistent basis know what you're all about. But there's still that separation. There's no face-to-face, and there's no, I guess, direct connection. So what does somebody do in this day and age?
I would say it's got to be a matter of having some discretion. Like, you're gonna have to do research on the person as much as you can. A lot of things can be faked. So it just requires a lot more, I'd say a lot more research, a lot more discernment. You got to resonate with this person. If you are in a position to where you can have a conversation with them, that helps. But it's so easy to get scammed on the internet these days that, first of all, if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. So pass up on that one. If you're not able to do some research, see the credentials, look at the timestamps, broker statements, live logins, and just see how long the person's been around. So I think nowadays it requires a lot more research on the person that you're going to pick. But then it's kind of that faith. You got to have that trust in the person. So spend as much time as you can doing the research on the person that you're going to learn from. And hopefully you do end up finding the right person. But yeah, I'd say it's just research, a lot of research these days.
So what really compelled you to actually be that person for other people, to put up the massive amount of content that you've put up, to put together training programs, live and recorded? What compelled you to be that mentor for other traders?
It took a very long time for me to I think even after year 5, still I had imposter syndrome. I was like, am I qualified? Like, yes, I'm profitable. Yes, I'm making money. Like, I truly wanted to make sure that I was in a position to where I was credible. I had the credentials. I was in a position to teach, because I think a lot of people will start teaching when they're not truly qualified to teach. And then that's where the whole industry gets messy. We've got gurus all over the place. One person has one good trade, and now learn from me, I'm a genius. Right. So there was a long time where I was struggling with that, wrestling with, like, am I qualified? Like, have I been doing this long enough? And I think finally after year 5, I was like, it was that year where I'm like, I believe I can do it. And I tested it out with just a few students, and I was like, okay, it turns out I can resonate with people. Like, I come up with analogies that just make sense. Luckily, the strategy that my uncle taught me was incredibly simple, so it required minimal knowledge. I think I found out through testing it out with some students, after struggling with the imposter syndrome of, am I qualified to do this? And then I just realized I'm good at teaching, and I was like, okay, we're going to hit this hard.
That's awesome. Well, and of course, again, the results speak for themselves. So let's talk a little bit about your trading, basically when you get started with your day. Now, you do swing trading. You also do day trading. Obviously, the show is really kind of targeted towards the day traders, but I still want to talk about both, because, of course, timeframes are fractal. So what happens on the 4 hours happens on the 5 minutes, happens on the 1 minute. We know all of these things. But as someone who's been swing trading for I think, if I'm not mistaken, the majority of your trading career, no?
No.
Okay. So share with me kind of how that's progressed.
So I've been a day trader for most of my entire career. The 5-minute time frame is my comfort zone. That's my sweet space. That's where I live. That's where my uncle taught me how to trade, was in the 5-minute time frame. I'm going to say most of my trading career is as a day trader. I have only swung. Right.
What's the right verbiage, right?
I don't know. We swing traded, past tense, for a year and a half. So I'm still kind of new to swing trading.
Got it. Okay. So as you have progressed and developed, is there any difference for you when you're looking at a chart, what you're looking for in terms of a day trade versus a swing trade?
It is the same setup. So I'm a trend line trader. So I am drawing my trend lines and I'm looking for higher lows, lower highs. I'm trying to track, which trend the price is truly going to follow along. And the same applies to higher time frames and lower time frames. The only difference is these trend lines get broken much more often, obviously, in the 5-minute time frame. So I'm placing a lot more trades. There's a lot more fake outs. It's a little bit messier of a battleground, whereas the swing trading, I'm finding a little bit more peace. I got to wait a lot longer for setups. I'm in trades for longer, but same exact strategy.
Well, let's take a look. So obviously we've got your charts all set up, ready to go. So would you kindly show us what it is that you look for, what you see when you get in, you get out? That give us the whole real quick, obviously. Version of what it is that you do.
Well, it's easy. I know a lot of people are just, when it comes to the trading space, they want to complicate it. And I am here to show you guys that it can be so freaking simple. Like, it can truly just be a 2-year-old drawing on a piece of paper, which is me drawing lines on the chart, and just waiting for price to break out of these. So give me a second. I can see it up here. Okay, so we've got our trend lines drawn. This is platinum. It's one of my favorite instruments to trade on the 4-hour time frame. Crude oil is what I like to trade on the 5-minute time frame. But essentially, I'm just looking for, so I've got a point A here and a point B. I've got a high and a lower high here. So we got 2 touch points on this trend line. Usually I want to look for 3. If I've got more, absolutely. And platinum on a regular basis will give me 3 to 4 touch points on a trend line, and it is incredible. So usually I'm looking for more touch points than 2, but I felt really good about this setup today. It was a lower risk trade. So I've got a horizontal level here, which some people call them support, resistance, supply and demand. My uncle called them high water marks and low water marks. Right. Whatever it is, I mark up levels where the price is likely to gravitate towards and then turn around. So this 935.2, if we go back into well, let's go ahead and do it. Give me just a moment. Okay, so we've got a few touch points on this level here, just overall. Like, this is a lot of data that we're working with here.
Right.
So we got many areas where the price has hit and turned around. We've got somewhere around this 953, but this most recent one, it touched twice back here, but then we've got some more touch points here back in March. It played around as support, and then back in, I'd say that's about, for the most part, we got some touch points. Oh, okay, so we've got some over here as resistance in December. So we got a few touch points. But a lot of students that I have, they'll see these horizontal lines on my chart and think that these are my determining factors to get into a trade. But to be honest, my levels or my support and resistance are only like a guide. Like, it just gives me added confirmation. They never actually will get me into a trade. So it just will make me feel more confident. So, like, let's say I'm in a long position now and I saw that it did reject off of this 935. Okay, I have more confidence in this position that I'm in, but I did not get in when price got to the 935. So I still have to wait for my trend lines to be broken. But essentially, I'm drawing trend lines. I'm looking for point A's, point B's, lower highs if we're doing downward trend lines. Sorry, the brain we're still waking up today. I slept in a little bit. All right.
You're good. You're good.
But we've got point A's and point B's. I'm waiting for breakouts of the trend line. So when my uncle taught me how to trade, I did modify my strategy slightly. He taught me trend line breaks and trend line bounces. And I just haven't found myself taking anywhere near as many trend line bounces as I do breaks. The breaks just being able to navigate a fake out obviously is a requirement for being a breakout trader. But I'd say the bounces, I just haven't found as much success as I have found in the breaks. So I am looking for the break of a trend line. And stop losses or risk management will always go on the opposing trend line. So I always have 2. I'm trying to figure out which one price is going to follow along. Are we going to be bullish or bearish? Which trend is going to be the king? Which trend is going to be what price is following along moving forward. So then the opposing trend line that it is following along is my essentially like my trailing stop. So the trend line that got broken is entry. That's telling me this trend is no longer valid. We broke it. Now let's get in on the opposing trend line or the opposing trend. So that is essentially the strategy here. I'll show us crude oil and some intraday setups, but this right now, this is my position in platinum. I'm in 20 contracts and we are in a long position. I got in on Friday when we had the break of this downward trend line. And then we're staying in until I can get at least a lower high. And if I can track a steeper trend line along this, then I'm able to mitigate my risk a lot better. So as price progresses, my risk becomes smaller. My initial entry is a little bit bigger because I have to wait for this long-standing. I believe this trend line is probably drawn back on the daily, maybe even the weekly time frame. So this is a pretty significant trend line. But as long as price can stay above it, I'm still happy in my position. But if I can get some more movement here, where let's say price, where's our little? Oh, here we go, path tool. So if it does pulling back. We're gonna pull back a little bit. If we can get any sort of a lower high and then take off, then I can go ahead and mitigate that risk and come in with a steeper trend line, like kind of similar to like the one that got broken here. Right. So the risk becomes smaller as price progresses and as I get more movement. But I could be in this thing for a week. It could be 2 weeks. That's the crazy thing about being in the 4-hour time frame is you're in it for the long run.
Right. Well, and you mentioned bringing up crude oil. Would love to take a look at that. While you pull that up, a couple of questions. So Steve says, Tory doesn't trade indices. You don't trade any indices. Is that correct? I
watch them. I love watching them. I love sitting on the sidelines, but I don't trade them very often. I believe last year I maybe placed, we're going to say like 5 trades total in like, I think I did NQ and ES. Yeah.
And that was 5. 5 was enough for you?
That's plenty.
I kind of feel you today. So, but because I trade NQ and it was not good to me today. Well, I was not good to me today, to be fair. And then Joe asks, how do you identify a fake breakout? So clearly you're just looking for that break of structure, not the break of structure, but the break of the trend line.
Yeah.
So what is it that you're looking for that says this isn't just a wick?
So especially on the lower time frames, I just need some added confirmation to get me into trades. So it could be waiting for the retest. It could be waiting for candle closure. So I'm going to say those help me avoid fake outs in the lower time frames. In the higher time frames, I don't necessarily avoid them. I just am able to manage my risk in case it does happen. So I always have the safety line, the opposing trend line that's going to keep me safe. So if this is a fake out, I already know how much I'm going to lose in this trade, but it's a little bit easier to avoid the fake outs in the lower time frames because you have time to wait for some added confirmation. So to wait for the retest, maybe you got to wait 20 more minutes for a retest, or maybe you simply are in the 5-minute time frame and you just have to wait for the candle to close. So that's just another 5 minutes. So on the lower time frames, it's easier to avoid the fake outs or just wait for more confirmation before entry. On the higher time frames, it's just a waiting game. If you've got a big body candle breaking through a trend line and that's signaling an entry for me, I'm going to get in. But there is the possibility that this doesn't work out, that it starts turning around and it truly was just a wick. It was just a fake out. But as long as I have my risk mitigated and I've got my stop loss on the other side of my safety line, which is the trend it's supposed to be following along, then that's just the name of the game.
Awesome. So let's look at what some day trading looks like. Now we're still on 4-hour here.
So now what I will always do is I do top-down analysis. So I never want to just jump to a 5-minute time frame and start drawing some trend lines. So it all has to be part of the big picture, essentially. So when I'm drawing my lines, I want to look at all the data. So if I've never traded crude oil before, I would start on a monthly time frame and I would see what is it doing overall. I would start looking for some trends in an overall just view from start to now. What is there a trend that is following along overall in this monthly time frame? Sure. Then I would work my way down to a weekly time frame and then try to find trends within that, and then so on and so forth. So I would always make sure that my trends connect, my trend lines connect, and that it's all kind of part of the bigger picture, and that we're just simply getting a magnifying glass and looking closer as we come into the time frames or the lower time frames. So the 4-hour lines that we have here are going to stay. The only thing that changes is I come in closer in time frames, and then I see, okay, slightly need to make a modification here. We need to incorporate that wick, which I do incorporate wicks. When my uncle taught me how to trade, we used bar charts and not candlesticks, so I didn't even know what a wick was when we were learning. So,
Right.
so yeah. Okay, so then we're going to move down from the 1 hour. There's not really any changes that need to be made on the 1 hour, but we do got a break of not only this 7616 area of support here, but we also got a break of an upward trend line. But I would have to pass up if I was a 1 hour trader.
Right.
This is too high risk of a trade. If I get in here, price has to come all the way back up and break this trend line for me to think of closing this position.
Sure.
So this would be too high risk of a trade. I'm looking for breaks that are a little bit closer to the safety line, so that if it doesn't work out, if I maybe had a steeper upward line, price is breaking through and it's very close to this downward trend line, that's A plus. We're getting in all day, because if it doesn't work out, I'm going to know pretty quickly and with a very small loss here.
Awesome.
But let's keep going down. We'll go down to the 5 minute. Oh my gosh, beautiful. Look at this thing.
There's a nice little retest.
Oh yeah. So then for the 5 minute time frame, I can at least come in with some steeper lines now. So let's get over here. So now it's just a different picture. So same trend lines. These just hold a lot more weight because these were drawn on higher time frames, which is something I used to try to differentiate the lines that I would draw in higher time frames, just so that I knew when I'm in a 5 minute, like I would make this really bold or really thick and be like, okay, this is an important line here. And then the lines that I'm about to draw, they're just based on an hour's worth of data. So they don't hold as much weight as these higher time frame lines. But now we can come in with some steeper lines. This is what I would do in the 5 minute time frame. And then I would simply either wait for a break of this line, and we're thinking long positions, or when we did get this break here, still pretty low risk. So when we either got the retest back here, it was just 10.05. Minimal risk here. So close to this opposing trend line. And so this is essentially the strategy here for the 5 minute time frame. So I'm trying to track price as much as I can. I'm essentially just, the trend is your friend. I'm tracking the price. I'm following it. So if we do get a break and we're thinking long positions here, I need to take this trend line, adjust it to this new low, and now we've got our new trend that it's following along. So I'm just essentially trying to figure out the entirety of my trading career, trying to figure out which trend do I need to get in on.
Which line is meaningful at the moment.
Yes, exactly.
Awesome. Now, as you go through this process, with crude oil, for example, you're on the 5 minute time frame. How long are you typically in a trade on a 5 minute time frame versus we know you could be weeks, months into a 4 hour time frame?
Not very long. I'm gonna say maybe half an hour to an hour. When I'm new to prop trading as well. So a lot of my experience trading is on a personal account. I started in the stock market, then we moved to the futures market, and prop trading is new to me. So I am actually I have to tweak or modify my strategy ever so slightly to abide by the rules of Apex. And so far, the strategy is we're still waiting on trendline breaks. Like the setups are all exactly the same. But the exits, instead of waiting for my safety line to get crossed, I'm just trying to collect profit as I'm up. So I get a trendline break, I'm up $200 to $300, I'm taking it. And same for the next day. I get a trendline break, I'm up 2 to 3, maybe 400, maybe 500 this day. I'm taking it. So I'm changing my strategy ever so slightly to abide by prop firm rules, but so far so good. I'm going slow and steady with my valuation. I'm still a newbie when it comes to prop firm trading, which is funny because I haven't said I'm a newbie in a really long time. Right. But ever so slightly, I am a newbie when it comes to the prop world. But so far so good. I've only tried one evaluation with Apex, and we're still in. I haven't failed. It's been fairly easy. As long as you are collecting profit when you're up, we're racking it up. We're getting there. I'm making sure positions are small. I'm not over leveraging. I'm not trying to be greedy and hold this thing and then let it come back. I'm just trying to capitalize when I'm up, take it. When I'm up, take it.
So let me ask you a question, because you're used to trades that are 5-figure trades, as we just saw in the 4 hour time frame, right, on platinum. So psychologically speaking, when you're looking at a chart and you see up 200 or down 200 or whatever, I mean, is there any, does that affect you differently than the sizable swing trades that you're taking? I mean, do you notice any sort of difference in the way that you react, respond, good, bad, or indifferent?
I'm gonna say a lot of my trading with these smaller numbers is purely just strategy because the numbers are almost numb to me now. So now I will say one thing that my uncle did teach me is to never, when you do start leveling up, to never not be satisfied with like that $1,000 trade. Like, even though, yes, I'm making $10,000 to $30,000 trades, don't ever let that get to your head to where you just can't be happy with $1,000 or $5,000 trade. And same mindset when it comes to prop trading or to see just these $200 to $500. I can still understand the value of, not many people make $200 to $500 in a day. So like, if you can get rid of some of the ego, and there is a little bit of a numbness to it for sure, but yes, it's absolutely the ego there.
Yep. Which I think may have taken control over me today.
Oh.
It happens. It happens to I would say the best of us, but I haven't figured that side of it out yet. So so I love this. There is a little bit of a numbness, but you can't be dissatisfied. I love that. Now, we do talk about the fact that, a $200 or $300 trade or a $500 or $1,000 trade. One of the things that I think has just always, I don't know who else does it, but Apex gives you the option to trade 20 accounts. I love the trade copier.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I live by the trade copier. It is just it's a part of my functionality. So when you're talking about a $200 or a $500 or a $1,000 trade, 20x that on a intraday trade, I mean, there becomes a different psychology. So now you're talking intraday 5 figures versus a month-long 5-figure trade. And of course, this is all opportunity. This is all hypothetical. This is all what's possible, of course. But as you progress, as you start to see these things, is this something that you want to move into? Is that multiple account multiplication factor that you have the opportunity to do here?
I think it's absolutely an incredible opportunity. So when it comes to psychology, I think the ability to copy trade, 20 different accounts, but to just be here on this singular, evaluation, and you're up, $200 to $300, that is so incredible for your psychology to be able to copy trade that just $500 trade that you made. I think psychologically, it's so good for you versus trying to get in on like a $5,000 move. Like, the odds of those happening, they just don't happen that often. Where those $500 trades, you're going to get those every day.
Exactly.
Every day. Those $300 trades, you get those all the time in the market. So if you can, I think that is it's an incredible opportunity for your psychology. It is only going to, I feel like it puts you on the right path. It's only a pro, I guess I would say. That's not going to hinder your psychological, journey. I think the words aren't making sense, but I think I'm excited about it. It's a really cool feature because so many traders want to get that $5,000, $10,000 move. And if you can just simply copy trade and get that $300 to $500 trade, oh my gosh, it's so much better.
There it is. And psychologically, of course, yeah. I mean, it's just a completely different thing. Now, I could probably continue this conversation for another hour. We don't have time for that, unfortunately. So I do want to throw you a few plugs because you absolutely deserve them. You've been such I love watching this. I love hearing this. It's, I actually had seen you on YouTube before you and I had the opportunity to talk about doing the show. For you guys out there, I highly, highly recommend check out Tory Trades on YouTube. She does have a live course. She does have a pre-recorded course for different levels of traders. Go check her out. Go follow her. Go subscribe. What do you say? Smash that what? Noti button?
Smash that noti bell.
Oh my God. Smash that noti bell. I'm never going to use that, but that's awesome. I think it works for you. So go definitely check her out. She's got a lot of great content out there. You could spend hours upon hours upon hours just following what she's already put out there. And it's just great information, free of charge. Figure out if this is the type of person that you want to work with. So anyway, gosh, Tory, I can't begin to tell you how much I appreciate you taking this time and sharing your insight with us today. I absolutely, I can't wait to see what you're able to do with now going into that prop world and seeing where that progresses for you in addition to everything else that you've already been doing. For those of you out there, great show coming up for you guys next week. I will throw back out there that new episode of the Forge Trader podcast will be coming out later this week. A little pressure on me. I was hoping to have better news, but today changed the dynamic of what that episode will look like, such as the dynamic of live and real-time content. So thanks for hanging out with us today. Cannot wait to see you guys all next week. Tori, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. This was awesome.
Awesome. We'll chat with you soon.
Thanks.
Thanks for joining the Trader Bacon Show, where we showcase everyday traders that are getting funded, paid, and bringing home the bacon.